I stared at my computer screen, watching the numbers climb. 2 years of work was finally paying off. The Mitchell Corp deal was worth $2.6 million, and I was just 2 weeks away from closing it. My hands shook as I calculated the commission. 5% would be $130,000. Enough to pay off my student loans and put a down payment on that little house I'd been dreaming about. My boss, Mr. Mason, knocked on my cubicle wall. His smile seemed different today, almost too friendly. "Melissa, I have someone I want you to meet." Behind him stood a guy about my age, tall with perfect hair and an expensive suit. "This is Miles Miller. He's our new hire, fresh from business school. I want him to shadow you for the next 2 weeks." Mason's voice had that tone he used when he wasn't really asking. Miles stepped forward with a confident handshake. "I've heard amazing things about your work, Melissa. I'm so excited to learn from you." I forced a smile. "Sure, no problem." Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Mason walked away, leaving Miles standing there with that perfect smile. "So," Miles said, "when do we start?" The next morning, Miles arrived with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need some fuel for what I'm sure will be an incredible learning experience," he said, handing me one. I had to admit he was charming. As I walked him through the Mitchell Corp file, he asked smart questions and took detailed notes. He seemed genuinely interested in understanding every aspect of the deal. "You've really thought of everything," he said, flipping through my proposal. "The way you structured the payment terms is brilliant. How did you come up with this approach?" His enthusiasm was refreshing. Most people in the office treated me like I was invisible. Here was someone who actually seemed to appreciate my work. "I spent months researching their cash flow patterns," I explained. "Mitchell Corp likes to pay in quarterly chunks, so I built the whole proposal around that." Miles nodded eagerly. "That's exactly the kind of strategic thinking I want to learn. Would it be okay if I sat in on your next client call? Just to observe, of course." "Of course," I said. "Why not?" He seemed harmless enough. "You're an amazing mentor already," he said with that perfect smile. The client lunch was at Antonio's, Mitchell Corp's favorite restaurant. I'd booked it weeks ago, knowing they appreciated the personal touch. Miles walked beside me, adjusting his tie nervously. "Just follow my lead," I whispered as we approached the table where 3 Mitchell Corp executives waited. "Melissa!" Tom Mitchell stood up with a warm smile. "Right on time, as always." I made the introductions. "This is Miles Miller, our newest team member. He's observing this week to learn our process." Tom shook Miles's hand. "Welcome to the chaos, Miles. Hope you can keep up with Melissa here. She's been running circles around our procurement team for months." We settled into lunch and I walked them through the final proposal adjustments. Everything was going perfectly. Then Tom turned to Miles. "So Miles, what's your take on this deal? Fresh eyes and all that?" My stomach tightened. Miles wasn't supposed to speak, but he leaned forward confidently. "Well, sir, I think Melissa has created something really special here. The quarterly payment structure shows she truly understands your business." Tom laughed. "Smart kid. You trained him well, Melissa." I smiled, but something cold settled in my chest. Back at the office, Miles was practically glowing. "That went amazing. Thank you so much for letting me be part of that." I was updating the proposal when Miles appeared at my desk again. "Hey, I was thinking about what Tom said regarding the delivery timeline. Would it help if I sent him a quick follow-up email with those clarifications?" "I could CC you, of course." It seemed thoughtful. "Sure, that would be great." An hour later, I saw the email in my inbox. Miles had sent a professional, well-written message addressing Tom's concerns. He'd CC'd me and signed it on behalf of the team. It was exactly what needed to be said. "This is perfect," I told him. "Thanks for taking initiative." "I'm just trying to absorb everything you're teaching me," he said. "This is exactly the kind of experience I needed." As the day ended, he stopped by my desk one more time. "Melissa, I can't thank you enough. You've taught me everything I know so far about client relationships." "You're a quick learner," I replied. He smiled and headed for the elevator. I felt good about helping someone get started in the business. The next morning, Tom Mitchell called me directly. "Melissa, quick question about the installation timeline. Miles mentioned something yesterday about a phased rollout option." I paused, coffee cup halfway to my lips. I'm sorry, what? The phased approach? He said you guys had discussed it as an alternative to the full implementation. My mind raced. We'd never discussed any phased rollout. Could you clarify when Miles mentioned this? Yesterday afternoon, when he stopped by our office. Didn't he tell you he was coming by? The coffee suddenly tasted bitter. No, he must have forgotten to mention it. No worries. I like the initiative from your team. The phased approach could actually work better for our budget cycle. After I hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Miles had met with the client without telling me. He'd discussed options we'd never talked about. My hands started to shake. I walked over to his desk, but it was empty. His computer was logged off. When he returned from lunch, I cornered him. Tom mentioned you stopped by their office yesterday? Oh, right. He snapped his fingers. Sorry it was so quick, I forgot to mention it. It was the morning of the final signing meeting. I'd been preparing for this day for 2 years. I put on my best suit, the navy blue one I'd saved for special occasions. My presentation was perfect, printed and bound in leather folders. I grabbed my keys and headed to the garage. The car wouldn't start. I turned the key again, nothing but clicking sounds. My heart started racing. Of all days, why today? I called a tow truck, pacing in the garage. How long until you can get here? 2 hours minimum, miss. We're backed up today. 2 hours. The meeting was in 90 minutes. I called an Uber, but surge pricing made it $200 just to get downtown. I had no choice. By the time I arrived at the office, I was 3 hours late. I ran toward the conference room, my heels clicking against the marble floor. As I turned the corner, I saw Miles walking out of the building. He was grinning, carrying a leather folder that looked exactly like mine. Tom Mitchell was shaking his hand. My legs felt weak. The deal was done, without me. Congratulations, Miles, Tom was saying. Smooth negotiation? Your team should be proud. I stood frozen in the lobby, watching Tom Mitchell disappear into his car. Miles spotted me and walked over, still holding that folder. Melissa, there you are. We were worried when you didn't show up. My car broke down, I managed to say. What happened with the meeting? Don't worry, I covered for you. I knew you'd want the deal to close on schedule. His smile was so sincere, so understanding. I told Tom you had a family emergency. My mouth felt dry. And the contract? All signed and filed. Tom was really impressed with the presentation. The presentation I'd worked on for weeks. The client relationship I'd built for 2 years. Everything. I walked straight to Mason's office. He looked up from his computer with an expression I couldn't read. We need to talk about my commission, I said. He leaned back in his chair. Miles closed the deal, Melissa. Company policy is clear. Whoever signs gets the commission. But I did all the work, 2 years of work. Mason spread his hands. I understand you're disappointed, but Miles was the one in the room when it mattered. The room spun slightly. 5% of $2.6 million. That's my commission. That's Miles's commission now. I walked back to my desk like a zombie. The office buzzed with normal activity, but everything felt underwater. People were talking, phones were ringing, but I couldn't process any of it. 2 years, 24 months of client meetings, proposal drafts, relationship building, problem solving, all of it erased in one morning because my car wouldn't start. I opened my laptop and stared at the Mitchell Corp folder on my desktop. Hundreds of files, emails, notes, research documents. All my work, all my effort. $130,000. Gone. I didn't cry. I couldn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the screen, replaying every interaction I'd had with Miles. Looking for signs I'd missed. Warning flags I'd ignored. There were none. He'd been perfect, respectful, eager, grateful. As I packed up my things to leave early, Miles walked past my desk. He was carrying a bottle of champagne someone had given him. He leaned down and whispered, "Thanks for all the legwork." Then he kept walking, like he just commented on the weather. My hands clenched into fists. Something was very, very wrong here. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Miles's whispered comment. Thanks for the legwork. Why would he say that? And why whisper it? The next morning, I went straight to HR. I needed documentation of what had happened. If I was going to fight this, I needed everything in writing. I'd like to request clarification about the Mitchell Corp commission, I told Millie from HR. She pulled up my file on her computer. According to our records, Miles Miller closed the deal and is entitled to the full commission per company policy. Can I get that in writing? Of course. She printed out a single sheet of paper. Only the listed closer is entitled to commission per our standard policy. I stared at the document. It was so simple, so final. That afternoon, I decided to review all my emails about the Mitchell Corp deal. I wanted to see if there was something I'd missed. That's when I found it. Buried in the email thread was a message from Miles directly to Tom Mitchell. No CC to me. No mention of me at all. Hi Tom, following up on our conversation about implementation timeline, here are the revised options we discussed. Our conversation. Not my conversation. Our conversation. The champagne celebration happened the next day. Mason called everyone into the main conference room for what he called a special announcement. I want everyone to congratulate Miles Miller on closing the biggest deal of the quarter, Mason announced, raising his glass. The Mitchell Corp contract is worth $2.6 million, and Miles brought it home. Everyone clapped. Colleagues I'd worked with for years smiled and nodded approvingly at Miles. And let's also thank Melissa for being such an excellent mentor to Miles, Mason added, gesturing toward me. This is what teamwork looks like. More applause. People patted me on the back, telling me what a good teacher I was, how lucky Miles was to learn from me. I forced a smile and clapped along. Mason handed Miles a crystal plaque. Top Deal Closer Q2, it read. Miles held it up for photos. He looked directly at me and winked. My stomach churned. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, where I finally let myself throw up. When I came back, the party was still going. Miles was telling everyone about his strategy for building client relationships. I sat at my desk and opened a new document on my computer. I started typing everything I could remember. I didn't tell anyone how I felt. Not my friends, not my family, not my coworkers. I smiled and worked and acted like everything was normal. But inside, I was watching, listening, collecting details. I noticed Miles never ate lunch at his desk anymore. He was always meeting with clients or handling follow-ups. But when I checked the client database, there were no meetings scheduled under his name. I noticed Mason and Miles having quiet conversations near the coffee machine. They'd stop talking when anyone else approached. I noticed that Mason had started giving Miles leads on other deals that other people had been developing. Most importantly, I noticed that the Mitchell Corp deal file in our system had been edited. I clicked on the revision history. My name had been completely removed from all the original documents. Every email, every note, every proposal draft now listed Miles as the primary contact. The timestamps showed the edits had been made at 11:47 p.m., the night before the signing meeting. Who worked at 11:47 p.m.? And why remove my name from everything? I started taking screenshots of everything. The next morning, I checked the office printer queue history. It was something most people didn't know you could access, but I'd learned it during a training session years ago. The logs showed that someone had printed 43 pages under Mason's login at 11:15 p.m. the night before the Mitchell Corp signing. 43 pages. That was exactly the length of my complete Mitchell Corp proposal. So Mason had been in the office at 11:15 p.m. printing my proposal. Then someone had edited the system files at 11:47 p.m. to remove my name. I was building a timeline, but I needed more evidence. That's when Eli approached me. Eli was our intern, a quiet college kid who mostly stayed invisible. He worked late most nights doing data entry and filing. Melissa, he said quietly, looking around to make sure no one else was listening. Can I ask you something? Sure, Eli. Do you think something weird happened with your deal? The Mitchell one? My heart started racing. Why do you ask? I don't know, just something felt off about how it all went down. You worked on that forever, then suddenly Miles gets all the credit? I stared at him. Did you see something? He looked nervous. Maybe, I'm not sure. Eli fidgeted with his backpack, looking around the office nervously. I don't want to get involved in office politics, he said. But I also can't just stay quiet about what I saw. What did you see, Eli? He pulled a small flash drive from his pocket. I accidentally left my phone charging in the conference room 2 nights ago. I came back after hours to get it, and I heard voices. My mouth went dry. Voices? Mason and Miles. They were in the conference room, talking loud enough that my phone picked up some of it. I only realized later that it had been recording. He handed me the flash drive. I probably shouldn't be giving you this, but what they said, it wasn't right. I took the drive with shaking hands. What kind of things did they say? Just listen to it, Eli said. But be careful, okay? I don't think they'd be happy if they knew this existed. He walked away quickly, leaving me standing there holding what might be the evidence I needed. I waited until everyone left the office that evening. Then I plugged the flash drive into my computer and found the audio file. My finger hovered over the play button for a full minute before I clicked it. The audio was scratchy, but I could hear voices clearly enough. Mason's laugh, then Miles's voice. I can't believe how easy she made this. She prepped everything, built all the client relationships, and didn't even blink when I asked to shadow her. Mason's voice. That's why I picked you for this. Some people are too trusting for their own good. Cutting her car wires was genius, Miles said. Single women always panic when their car breaks down, gives them something else to focus on instead of being suspicious. My hands started shaking so hard I had to put the laptop down. Mason again. The timing had to be perfect. If she'd made it to that meeting. She never would have signed over the deal to me, Miles finished. Good thing Tom Mitchell thinks I'm the relationship manager now. You better not screw this up, Mason said. I'm taking a big risk giving you my best deal. I deserve half that commission. Relax, Miles replied. She's too nice to cause trouble. We're golden. I sat in the empty office, staring at the audio file. They had sabotaged my car. They had planned this from the beginning. I didn't go home that night. I stayed in the office, copying every file, every email, every document I could access. I created backup copies of backup copies. The audio recording was just the beginning. I needed to build a case so strong that no one could deny what had happened. I pulled my phone records showing the tow truck call. I found my mechanic's report, confirming that my car's wiring had been deliberately cut. I gathered every email showing my 2 years of work on the Mitchell Corp deal. But I didn't report them immediately. I needed to be smart about this. The next morning, I researched the company's whistleblower policy. There was a provision for anonymous reporting of ethics violations, with protection for employees who came forward. I scheduled a confidential meeting with the compliance department using the anonymous hotline. I didn't give my name, just said I had evidence of commission fraud and client relationship theft. The compliance officer who called me back sounded serious. We take these allegations very seriously. Can you come in for a private meeting? Yes, I said, but I want full protection under the whistleblower policy. Of course, how much evidence do you have? I looked at the pile of documents on my desk. Enough. For the next 3 days, I worked like a detective. I created a complete timeline of events, starting from when Miles was hired to the day he closed my deal. I had Mason's email assigning Miles to shadow me. I had Miles's emails to the client without CCing me. I had the printer logs showing Mason was in the office at 11 p.m. I had the system edit logs showing when my name was removed from files. Most importantly, I had the audio recording. I organized everything into a presentation with timestamps, evidence, and clear connections between each piece of proof. On Friday afternoon, I got an email from the senior compliance officer. We need to meet with you in person on Monday morning. Please bring all relevant documentation. This meeting will be completely confidential. I spent the weekend reviewing everything one more time. By Sunday night, I had a folder thick with evidence and a USB drive with all the digital files. Miles and Mason had no idea what was coming. Monday morning, I dressed professionally and walked into the compliance office with nothing but my folder. No lawyers, no dramatic speeches. I was about to let the evidence speak for itself. The compliance office was on the 15th floor, far from the sales department. I'd never been there before. 3 people sat around a conference table. The senior compliance officer, someone from legal, and someone from HR I didn't recognize. Please, have a seat, the compliance officer said. We understand you have serious allegations to discuss. I opened my folder and placed the first document on the table. 2 weeks ago, my boss assigned a new hire named Miles Miller to shadow me on a deal I'd been working on for 2 years. I thought he was there to learn. I walked them through everything chronologically. The shadowing assignment, the unauthorized client meetings, the car sabotage, the stolen deal. When I played the audio recording, the room went completely silent. This conversation took place 2 nights before the deal was signed, I explained. They planned the entire thing. The legal representative leaned forward. Do you have documentation showing your work on this deal prior to Mr. Miller's involvement? I handed over the stack of emails, proposals, and client communications dating back 24 months. We'll need to investigate this thoroughly, the compliance officer said. Can you maintain discretion while we look into these allegations? Of course. They looked at each other across the table. Finally, the legal rep spoke. We'll handle this from here. The investigation started immediately, but quietly. I was told to continue working normally while they gathered additional evidence. Miles seemed nervous all week. He kept glancing at Mason's office, which remained empty. Mason had suddenly taken personal leave, according to the department secretary. I watched Miles from my desk, wondering if he suspected anything. He was still getting congratulations from colleagues who didn't know the truth yet. Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Tom Mitchell. Melissa, I'm confused about something. I got a call from your compliance department asking about my interactions with you and Miles on the deal we signed. My heart started racing. What did you tell them? The truth. That you were my primary contact for 2 years. That Miles seemed like your assistant until the final meeting, that I assumed you were the lead on the account. Did they ask anything else? They wanted to know if I would have signed the deal if I'd known you weren't going to be the ongoing account manager. I told them probably not. You're the one who understood our business. After we hung up, I realized the client himself was confirming that the deal belonged to me. This was bigger than just commission theft. This was fraud. Friday morning, everything changed. Miles was called into the HR office at 9 a.m. He never came back to his desk. By lunchtime, security was escorting him out of the building with a box of his personal items. He looked confused and scanning the office as if trying to figure out who had betrayed him. His eyes met mine for a split second. I kept my expression neutral. Word spread quickly through the office. Miles got fired. Something about ethics violations. They won't say what he did. People started asking me questions since I'd been his mentor. Do you know what happened? Did you see any warning signs? I just shrugged and said I was as surprised as everyone else. That afternoon, an internal memo went out. We are updating our commission policies and deal attribution procedures due to recent misconduct investigations. New guidelines will be distributed next week. I smiled as I read it. They were changing the entire system to prevent this from happening to anyone else. Mason's office remained empty. At 4 p.m., I got a call from the legal department. Ms. Martinez, we need to speak with you again. The legal department had finished their investigation faster than I'd expected. When I walked into the conference room, the same 3 people were waiting for me, plus someone new. A woman in an expensive suit who introduced herself as the general counsel. Ms. Martinez, we've completed our review of your allegations, she began. We want to apologize on behalf of the company for what happened to you. She slid a document across the table. We're awarding you the full 5% commission on the Mitchell Corp deal, effective immediately. That's $130,000, which will be in your next paycheck. I stared at the paper. After weeks of feeling powerless, seeing those numbers in black and white was overwhelming. Additionally, she continued, our investigation revealed that you were wrongfully excluded from commission on 2 other deals over the past year. We're awarding you back pay for those as well. My hands shook as I signed the paperwork. Nearly $200,000 total. What about Mason and Miles? I asked. Mr. Mason has been removed from his management position permanently. Mr. Miller has been terminated for ethics violations and is banned from rehire. That afternoon, Tom Mitchell sent me a gift basket with a note. Congratulations on getting the recognition you deserved. Thanks for not letting the jerks win. Mason's departure was handled quietly. The official announcement said he was pursuing other opportunities, but everyone knew he'd been fired. Miles's termination was more obvious since he'd been escorted out by security. His LinkedIn profile changed to open to work within hours. A week later, I got another call from the general counsel. Melissa, We'd like to offer you Mason's position as regional project lead. You have your own team, full autonomy over your deals, and a significant salary increase. I almost dropped the phone. Are you serious? You've demonstrated excellent judgment, strong ethics, and the ability to handle complex situations professionally. We need leaders like you. I accepted immediately. My first decision as regional project lead was easy. I walked over to Eli's desk, where he was quietly filing documents. Eli, can I speak with you privately? He looked nervous until I smiled. How would you like to be my first official hire for the new team? His face lit up. Really? You've got good instincts, I told him, and I need people I can trust. That afternoon, I moved into Mason's old office. The same office where he'd told me Miles deserved my commission. Now it was mine. 2 months later, I was standing in front of the quarterly company meeting, leading the new ethics training seminar. Today we're going to discuss a case study about commission fraud and how to prevent it, I began, looking out at a room full of sales staff. I walked them through the entire story, without names, but everyone knew what I was talking about. I explained how the fraud was discovered, investigated, and resolved. The key lesson here, I said, is that documentation matters. Client relationships matter. And most importantly, ethical behavior matters. I clicked to my final slide. Never confuse silence for weakness. Sometimes people are just building a case. The room was completely quiet. Then, slowly, people started nodding and whispering to each other. After the presentation, the CEO approached me. Melissa, that was excellent. Would you be interested in joining our corporate advisory council? We need your perspective on company policies. I shook his hand. I'd be honored. As I packed up my materials, I thought about Miles and Mason. They'd assumed I was too nice, too trusting to fight back. They were wrong. 6 months later, I was reviewing the new commission protection policies I'd helped design. No one else would ever lose a deal the way I had. The Mitchell Corp account was thriving under my management. Tom Mitchell had signed 2 additional contracts worth $4 million combined. He told everyone in his industry about the excellent service he received from our company. Eli had been promoted to junior account manager and was handling his own deals. Other employees had started coming to me with concerns about unfair treatment, knowing I would listen and take action. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Miles. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Mason had apparently found work at a smaller company across town. I'd heard through industry contacts that he was struggling to rebuild his reputation. Some people deserved second chances, but not people who sabotaged cars and stole other people's work. I turned my attention back to the quarterly reports on my desk. My team had exceeded our goals by 30%. Tomorrow, I had 3 new client meetings and a presentation to the board about expanding our ethics training program. There was no time to waste on people who'd already shown me exactly who they were. A year after the incident, I received an industry award for excellence in client relations. The ceremony was at a fancy hotel downtown with hundreds of sales professionals from across the region. As I walked to the podium to accept the award, I spotted Tom Mitchell in the audience. He gave me a thumbs up and mouthed, "Congratulations." "This award isn't just mine," I said into the microphone. "It belongs to everyone who believes that doing the right thing matters more than taking shortcuts." The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, several people approached me about job opportunities. "We need someone with your integrity," one executive said. "Would you consider joining our team?" I politely declined. I was exactly where I belonged. Later that evening, I was cleaning out old files when I found the original Mitchell Corp proposal I'd written 2 years ago. My name was on every page, exactly where it should have been. I thought about the scared, devastated person I'd been the day Miles stole my deal. That person wouldn't recognize the confident leader I'd become. Mason and Miles had tried to destroy me. Instead, they'd taught me something valuable. I was stronger than I knew. Today, I oversee the same commission system that once failed me. My team trusts me because they know I'll protect them. My clients respect me because they know I'll deliver what I promise. The new policies we implemented have prevented 12 cases of commission theft in the past year alone. Other companies have started adopting our model. I never had to yell or threaten anyone. I didn't storm into Mason's office demanding justice. I didn't confront Miles with accusations. I simply documented everything, gathered evidence, and let the truth speak for itself. Some people think that makes me weak. They're wrong. The people who tried to cheat me thought I was too nice to fight back. They thought wrong too. I learned that revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making sure the same thing never happens to anyone else. Mason and Miles planned to rob me and walk away laughing. They thought they'd found the perfect victim, someone too trusting to see it coming, too weak to fight back. But they made one crucial mistake. They taught the wrong woman how the system really works. And now I'm the one in charge of changing it. The commission check for $130,000 was nice. The satisfaction of protecting other people from the same treatment. That was priceless.